Hi everybody, welcome back to Grab Your Jars. I'm Lisa Bishop and today we're going to be talking about making jams. I prefer making jams over jellies just because I think jelly is more labor intensive. I don't want to call myself lazy, but I'd rather not put that much work into it, and I do prefer jams. The difference between jams and jellies is jams, you use the whole fruit, you smash it up or put it through a food processor, but you use all of the fruit as well as the juice. And jellies, you process your fruit and you put it through a sieve and you're only using the juice to make your jelly. Again, that seems a little wasteful to me, so I like making jams, and today that's what we're going to talk about. Things that you'll need to make jam is you will need a boiling bath water pot, and I have mentioned before I use my pressure canner as my boiling bath water pot. I simply don't lock my lid down and build pressure up inside. You will also need another large pot to put jars into. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. I use a food processor to smash my fruit up and to get it processed. If you don't have a food processor, no worries. Use a potato masher. You can use that as well, and I have done that in the past. I have some sugar out here ready to go into my jam. You can also use honey, maple syrup. If you're not a sugar person and you like using stevia or some other kind of sweetener, you can with Pomona's Universal Pectin, which leads me to my Pectin. Pomona's Universal Pectin is my favorite brand of pectin, and the reason I like using this is because I can use a lot lower amount of whatever sweetener I'm using with it. So the chemical reaction that normally makes your jellies and your jams kind of gel and set a bit is the amount of sugar, the amount of acids in your foods, and the amount of pectins in your foods. Pomona's is different. It processes that chemical reaction using calcium. And this calcium powder comes in the box, so you don't have to go looking for it. And then they also have their pectin in here. So it's the calcium that actually makes Pomona's Universal Pectin set for your jams and your jellies, and you don't need to use nearly as much. Other items that you'll need, of course, are your canning jars, and today we're going to make some jelly size jars, and that's generally 8-ounce jars. Sometimes you even get half of those, which makes little 4-ounce jars, which is nice for gifts and stuff. I have my regular size lids, and I also have some wide mouth lids for some bigger jars I'll be using. And you'll want your jar lifter. I have my instructions that came with my Pomona's Universal Pectin, and I kind of like to go through and use a highlighter to highlight what I'm going to be doing, so I'm not searching around on the page if I need to take a look. I also just have my handy dandy Care home canning and freezing book just here, and my kitchen cookbook that's from Care also. You will also be needing your funnel for sure today. Make sure you have a nice big funnel. You'll be using some measuring spoons, some measuring cups, and I think that covers most of what you're going to need for supplies. With most of my canning or preserving, first thing you're going to want to do is get your jars washed and cleaned and ready to roll. I just wash them in hot soapy water, whether they're brand new or whether they've been sitting out in my storage. I always wash my jars. The other thing that we always do with our canning is get some pots of hot water on the stove. Now you're not going to need as many pots for doing jams and jellies. I have one pot back here in the back. You can use a smaller pot. This is just what I happen to have. And this is pretty much just going to be to heat up the lids for my jars. That's it. Then I use a much larger pot, in this case another pressure canner that I have. Sorry, I've got water on my nose. It's making me feel funky. And what I'm going to use this for is to sterilize my jars. Now this process is a little bit different because when I'm pressure canning, my jars actually get sterilized at the same time that my food gets sterilized and canned. When I'm making jams or jellies, they're not going to process for more than 10 or 15 minutes, and that is not long enough for the jars to sterilize while the food is in them processing. So we're going to sterilize jars. After I'm done washing my jars, I'm going to put them in this pot and I'm going to boil them for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to keep them hot until I'm ready to use them. So that's a pretty big difference from pressure canning and using my boiling bath water for jams and jelly. All right, as you can see, I've got all of my jars washed and ready to roll here, and I am also going to just give all my brand new lids a quick wash and rinse as well. And I'm going to be putting them in a shallow dish, and I will be covering them with boiling water so that these little rubber rims on the outside will get nice and soft.
As soon as this larger pot starts to get to a good rolling boil, I'm going to go ahead and put my jars in the pot, and once they get back to a rolling boil, I'm going to boil them for 15 minutes, and that will sterilize my jars. Once they're sterilized for 15 minutes, I can just turn the stove off or way down and keep the jars hot until I'm ready to use them. This way, I'll have the jars ready to go when my jam is ready. So I'd rather have my jars sitting there in hot water than not being ready when my jam's ready.
Thanks for watching the supplies and preparation for making jams portion. Now you're going to go ahead and go look for that specific jam that you want to make. I have a video for strawberry jam, for raspberry jam, for strawberry rhubarb, and blueberry. I think those are all I've got so far this year. Thanks for watching.